Good morning. It is 7 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners. You get those at betterwater.com. A lot to talk about today. I don't know why that would surprise you. It seems like every day we have something to talk about, but we really do. Birthright citizenship is being debated in front of the Supreme Court right now. Front row seats, Donald Trump. This is a monumental case. We understand what's going on with birthright citizenship and the birther tourism, how it was designed for the children of slaves, yet it was manipulated over the years to include everyone. There are legal experts that say Donald Trump is going to lose. There are legal experts that say Donald Trump is going to win. I don't understand how the Supreme Court could decide anything other than, yeah, it was for slaves. How? How do they come to any other conclusion? We'll find out sooner or later, but we're going to be paying attention to these arguments very, very closely, and we'll bring you all the highlights as we discuss. We're also going to be talking about the war in Iran. Is it coming to a close? We've seen the administration change their messaging, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm sitting down last night talking with my wife, and I'm doing the show prep, and I was like, after like week one, they really dropped the 4 to 6 week messaging. That they had originally launched this operation, Epic Fury. Said it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. That's it. And then they stopped mentioning it. And it's like one of those little things that if you're not paying attention as closely as I have to, maybe you missed it. But they stopped talking about it. And it gave me a little bit of heartburn because everything is deliberate when you say it in front of the cameras. Well, as I mentioned on the show, the past few days, they have been mentioning that 4 to 6 week timeline again, which made me very confident that we're going to see it resolved in that 4 to 6 week timeline. Because they're not going to go out there and say that if they don't have any intention of ending it in the 4 to 6 week timeline. We had Caroline Leavitt going out. Rubio had mentioned the timeline again. Trump had mentioned the timeline again. Hegseth had mentioned the timeline again. Everybody's mentioning the timeline. So it made me realize, at least think, maybe not realize, maybe that's a poor choice of words, but it made me think, this boots on the ground stuff isn't going to happen. This month-long, years-long entanglement is probably not going to happen because they're mentioning the timeline again. President Trump is going to give the American people a bit more information this evening when he addresses the nation live from the White House at 8 o'clock. But yesterday, he was inside the Oval Office. He was actually signing an executive order on election integrity, which is another massive story. This is how big the news cycle is. I drew a blank, and I didn't even mention it in the opener. The executive order putting restrictions on mail-in ballots, we're going to get to that as well. Massive deal. But the news that was being made inside the Oval Office almost had nothing to do with that executive order. The big news out of the Oval Office was when President Trump said that within 2 to 3 weeks, we would be done with Operation Epic Fury. This is not coming from anyone other than the president. This is as high up as you can go, and President Trump mentioned it yesterday.
Within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night, we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities, as you probably read or wrote. We knocked out... Excuse me?
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I
or 3
think
weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
We'll
3
leave.
weeks,
Because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe. It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the strait.
I love how he takes a jab at France there. As you may have heard, and if you listen to this station, I'm sure you have, France wasn't even letting us fly over their airspace. Some allies. I mean, NATO has been feckless and weak this entire time. You know that we don't really need the Strait of Hormuz at all, right? They do. It wouldn't really bother us one bit. It would absolutely hurt European nations. And they wouldn't even let us use their airspace. I mean, I think we had to twist the arm of England to even get us on their bases. It's like, guys, what are we doing here? You call us the moment that you need backup, yet this is this is a bridge too far for you guys. Got it. So he takes a jab at France there. But the main point here is the president saying 2 weeks.
But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today, I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer, to do the job, but we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. You know, their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders.
Nice new leaders. And we're getting news today that these same nice new leaders that President Trump is mentioning, they're calling for a ceasefire. That's the messaging that we're getting from the president earlier this morning on Truth Social. President Trump said in all caps, yes, they are calling for a ceasefire. Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning, continuing on, we will consider when Hormuz Strait is open, free, and clear. Until then, we're blasting them into oblivion. Or as they say, back to the Stone Ages, President DJT. President Trump is not taking his foot off the gas. He is going to continue with this operation, and he'll end it when he says it's time to be over. And that's just the facts of the matter. Is it going to be quicker than 2 weeks? Seems like it could be. I mean, if this statement is true, not in the sense that they're asking President Trump for a ceasefire, but in the sense of, do they really mean it? If it's true, this could be over in a couple days. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. I don't want to count chickens before they hatch. That's not what I'm trying to do. But if they truly are asking for a ceasefire, and if President Trump says the only way you're going to get that is by reopening the strait, I think we could see this relatively quickly. Again, I don't want to count chickens before they hatch. Who knows? Who knows? What I do know is that President Trump was taking questions while he was signing this executive order. The executive order was for election integrity, and it ensures mail-in ballots are only given to and returned by eligible voters. The Democrats are obviously hemming and hawing today because he had to sign that election integrity executive order. But what are we talking about here? A dog in California voted via mail. Like, yes, we need to get a handle on the ballots. And we'll talk about that a little while from now. He had Howard Lutnick next to him explaining it all. Not the huge fan of Howard Lutnick. I still believe that he lied to the American people. I think he should have been booted out of the administration over the Epstein saga. I don't think that that's going anywhere. And I think once this news in Iran dies down, we're going to see the media jump back on the Epstein stuff, and that's going to tick up as we head towards midterms. But I think the main issue for the American people is the gas price is going to tick down before we get to the midterms. I said on this show last week, if we can end this by mid-April, which is in line with that original timeline, then we're going to see gas prices come down by the summer, and I think we're going to be in a good spot toward midterms. I do. I think that it's going to help the economy start booming, and we'll see real results. If they don't end this conflict by mid-April and it drags on throughout the summer, then we're going to take it in the shorts. And I don't think I'm like extra smart for thinking that. I think a lot of people realize that. Like anybody paying a little bit of attention could tell you the exact same thing. But that's kind of where we're at. President Trump said 2 weeks. As he's there signing this executive order on election integrity, he is also taking questions from the press, as he tends to do. President Trump, I don't know if we've ever had a president take as many questions as President Trump. Jeff Mason is the reporter, and he asked the president if he's worried about Iran hacking tech companies. They apparently threatened American tech companies. I didn't see this anywhere else. This is the first place I had heard it reported, and he asked the president about it directly.
Mr. President, the Iranian government threatened a bunch of U.S. companies today in the region, including Google, Apple,
With what? What did they threaten them with? PB guns? Or
Well, that's
they don't have much
question.
left to threaten.
My question for you is, are you?
I don't
is the
know.
US
I mean, what did they?
companies-
You made a statement. What did they threaten them with? I don't know. Tell me, how did they threaten them?
Well, all I know is that they threatened him, sir.
What does that mean?
Fair enough.
They said something nasty.
Is the government in touch with these companies? Are you helping to backstop them?
You don't even know what the threat was. What was the threat? I haven't heard it. What was the threat?
I'll get back
Did
to
they
you.
say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them. They're not. You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to hit them with a nuclear weapon. Yeah.
Is it something you're concerned about, sir?
No.
Iran's RGC issues a warning.
He just said no. No. I'm not concerned at all, actually. Moving on. Next question, please. Libby Dean, leftist reporter, wanted to know if the president thinks Iran has to make a deal. She asked the president this question, and then she tried to interrupt him mid-question, and President Trump wasn't exactly impressed with that.
Does Iran have to make a deal? Does Iran have to make a deal for the U.S. to end its operation in Iran? And
No,
have you
no.
spoken? And
Iran
have you
doesn't have
spoken
to.
directly?
Iran doesn't have to make a deal. No. Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people. It's a new regime. They are much more accessible. They are right. You know, they said, we have a present for you, Mr. President, out of respect. And they said, wait a minute, do you want me to answer the question? You're a fresh person. You know, we've had a lot of problems with you, haven't we?
He cracks me up. Like, does anybody use fresh anymore? Like, that sounds like something my mother would say to me when I was 6. Like, you're acting real fresh right now, Chris. What are you doing here?
Clearly, the president still uses it.
I don't use it on my kids. I don't. I trust me. I'm not above shaming them a bit, but I don't use fresh. I'll drop a rude. I'll drop a rude occasionally, but I don't drop fresh. I feel like that's a bit more harsh. I feel like it cuts right to the core. Maybe I should be dropping it. Maybe I should. I'll try and work it into rotation. But can you imagine? Can you imagine you're a reporter, right? And you work. I mean, as much as Libby Dean might be a leftist, you work your tail off, right? And you go to college, you work your way up through the ranks, and you finally arrive at the White House. And now you're a reporter in the White House. And then, you know, you got to work. You got to grind even more, man. The grind doesn't stop there. And I have friends that are White House reporters. So then you got to work your way up through the White House reporter ranks, right? And you do it, and you do a good job. And finally, you find yourself in the Oval Office. Like, whoa. I mean, that's got to be like a cool moment. It doesn't matter who the president is. It's got to be a cool moment. And you're in the Oval Office, and you have an opportunity to ask the president a question. Like, dude, this is like the peak. This is what you worked your whole life for. And then you get in there, and the president calls you fresh.
Out of respect. And they said, wait a minute, do you want me to answer the question? You're a fresh person. You know, we've
Would you question your life decisions after that? I would.
had a lot of problems with you, haven't we? No, they don't. You asked me a question. No, they don't have to make a deal with me. When we feel that they are, for a long period of time, put into the Stone Ages, and they won't be able to come up with a nuclear weapon, then we'll leave. Whether we have a deal or not, it's irrelevant. Now, it's possible that we'll have a deal because they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal more than I want to make a deal. But in a fairly short period of time, we'll be finished. They will not be able to do a nuclear weapon for years. And when they are ready, maybe in a long time from now, able to do a nuclear weapon, you'll have a president that will be like me in that he will go there and he'll knock the hell out of them again because they cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are very radicalized people. They're very sick leaderships. And I will say, though, that the leadership we're dealing with now, with the new regime, because we have a new regime, and the new regime is much better than the past. Yeah.
When will the Strait of Hormuz open, though? That is a big question. Donald Trump addressed it yesterday inside the Oval Office. We'll bring you those comments and how they could affect the gas prices when we return. It's 9:21. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friend Aaron Parker over at Parker Safes and Vaults. And I've been talking about these guys for weeks. I love Aaron. I love his family. Great family business out there in Shelbyville. Veteran-owned, family-run, safe and vault door business in Middle Tennessee. It's one of the best. And let's be honest, a lot of us want a safe. You want a safe, I want a safe. And we've been putting it off because there's a lot of options. We got to figure out what we want, where to buy it, where to put it, and how to get it installed. Well, Aaron and his team, his sons, they're going to take care of it, and they're going to simplify everything for you. They're going to help you choose the best safe for your needs and your budget. They're going to offer advice on the best place to put it. They'll deliver it, and they'll carefully install it. Now, if you need more information on which safe to pick, there's a detailed video review of every safe they have in stock on their YouTube page. Just search for Parker Safes on YouTube. And Aaron just told me that they've got great deals right now and plenty of safes in stock and ready to go. These aren't the average big box store cabinets. These are quality safes from brands like American Security, Rhino, Liberty, Heyman, and more. So don't put it off any longer. Call Aaron today, 931-842-6445. You're going to be glad you did. And as a special gift, you mentioned Chris Hand, and you're going to get a free pistol safe while supplies last. This is Parker Safes and Vault, always online, parkersafes.com.
Coming up, we'll take a look at what's happening at the Supreme Court at this hour as the 14th Amendment is being argued before the justices. It's 9:30, coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Joan Jones in the newsroom. My name is Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. So yesterday inside the Oval Office, an executive order was signed on election integrity. We'll dive more into the election integrity executive order on the way. But a reporter asked President Trump about gas prices, saying Americans are feeling the effects. President Trump said, yeah, they're also feeling a lot safer.
I feel it was very necessary.
Mr. President, a couple of questions for you on Iran, but first one that affects Americans here at home, gas prices. Today they hit $4.
And we're $4, yeah, and we have a country that's not going to be throwing a nuclear weapon at us in 6 months.
But Americans are feeling the effects in the interim.
And they're also feeling a lot safer.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon. And they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record.
No, I know there's a portion of the audience that's going to go, oh, why are we mentioning the stock market? But what the president just said there is the strait's going to open almost immediately as soon as we leave. And the gas prices will come tumbling down. The White House took that a step further when talking with Peter Doocy, and Peter relayed that message on Fox News.
Are getting too high. $4 a gallon nationwide average. And Caroline Levitt is telling us about that as soon as Epic Fury is over, they project that gas prices will drop down to multi-year lows. Jillian.
Let's hope. Wouldn't you like multi-year lows? I know I would. And I definitely think that if we want to have any intention of winning in the midterms in 2026, which is an uphill battle, naturally, because the incumbent usually loses, the party in power usually loses seats, we're going to need to do everything we can. And making sure that the economy is humming is part of that. It looks like the economy is on the right track. The gas prices could hurt us if this drags on much longer. But it seems like the administration is pretty confident that that is not going to happen. Well, on the way, we'll talk about the executive order on election integrity. We'll also dive into Marco Rubio's comments on Hannity last night when it comes to Iran, and we'll bring you the latest on what's happening with the fraud task force. A lot to get to, plus we're monitoring the Supreme Court debating birthright citizenship as we speak. We'll have all the highlights from that as well. It's 9:30. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It is 9:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, the United States Solicitor General John Sauer has presented his opening arguments before the Supreme Court over birthright citizenship, happening just moments ago. His first questions after he handed it over to the justices came from Clarence Thomas, then from John Roberts, who seems skeptical of the United States arguments. President Trump is present for these arguments. We are going to keep an eye on it. There was a serious threat of violence against West Wilson Middle School in Mount Juliet overnight. Channel 4's Joylyn Bukovac reported that the threat was delivered through an automated message to the police department's Advanced Response Communications Center. They handed it over to other authorities. There is a big police presence at all the Mount Juliet schools today. They're asking that anyone with information about the person making this threat to call police. Iran may be calling for a ceasefire, at least according to President Trump, but they're also threatening attacks on U.S. technology companies with a presence in the Middle East, including Apple, Microsoft, and Google. Iran's Revolutionary Guard warning that 18 tech companies would be considered a fair target. The IRGC advising employees to leave their workplaces immediately, noting that it planned to begin targeting these firms on Wednesday at 8 p.m. local time. That is the latest news. Your weather is next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here from my friends at the Glock store, and we are weeks away from the biggest open house in all of Nashville. I was there a couple weeks back for the Force-on-Force Simunition training, which is awesome. And we were making small talk, and I said, what are you guys up to? They said, man, we're already planning for the Glock store's 6th annual open house on Saturday, May 30th. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that's 2 months. That's 2 months away. But this is the amount of planning that they need to put into this. This is the biggest open house. If you've never been to one, you can expect some wild stuff, from great speakers to demonstrations, shooting competitions, vendor tables with factory reps, factory swag giveaways, and the biggest and best open to the public free gun gear raffle in all of Nashville, probably the entire country. Last year, they gave away, listen to this, over $25,000 in incredible raffle prizes, including 3 Glocks, plus a custom Glock store Glock worth over $2,000. You could be the guy that's winning that this year. I asked them, how many Glocks you guys planning to give away? They said, well, this is what we're planning right now. We'll keep you posted, and I'll let you know as soon as they let me know. The Glock Store's 6th annual open house, Saturday, May 30th. I plan on being there. You should plan on being there as well. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere, and always open online, glockstore.com. "36 minutes past the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Show is brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. The show is live on all the apps, the FM dial, and you can watch the show on YouTube and Rumble. Hit the subscribe button if you're there. Why would you want to watch a radio show on your TV? Well, it's because we have all the video elements for you for all the audio that you hear on your radio. Plus, you can always go back and watch it again, share it with a friend, skip the commercials, all the fun things. So that's on the YouTube page. Free to do. Hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you doing so. We've been talking about President Trump and the war in Iran. President Trump yesterday inside the Oval Office signing an executive order on election integrity, limiting the mail-in ballots and how they are processed. We'll get to that in a few. But the big story was President Trump saying 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, maybe a couple days on top. But we're looking at 2 weeks left in this conflict. I'm here for it. I think everybody is looking forward to that. We know that gas prices will fall as soon as that strait gets open. President Trump said, the strait's probably going to be open as soon as we dip out. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he was on Hannity last night, and he does great in these kinds of situations. But Marco Rubio said himself last night on Hannity that they can see the finish line. It is coming.
This regime is all about. I always say Iran. Let me be clear. I'm not talking about the people of Iran. The people of Iran don't even like this government or this regime. This is a regime that is led by radical Shia clerics, by people who believe that it is their calling. I know this sounds fantastical, but it's absolutely true. This is a regime led by people who believe that it is their calling and their purpose in life to usher in the end of the world. These people want nuclear weapons. Why do we know that? Because they are assembling all the things you need for nuclear weapons. They're assembling long-range rockets that can eventually reach the United States, can already range Europe. We saw them demonstrate 2 of them last week, despite denying that they had them. They enriched uranium to 60%. As you pointed out a moment ago, from 60 to 90%, which is what you need for a bomb, takes 12 to 14 days. They bragged about still having that. They demand the right to enrich, which is how you get from 60 to 90%. They're the leading sponsor of terrorism, not in the region, in the world. They can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, which is what President Trump made very clear from the very first day of his presidency, in fact, from the very first day of his candidacy. When he came down that escalator in 2015, he talked about this. He's actually been talking about the threat of Iran before he was even a political candidate.
Facts. And we actually played some of that yesterday, and people were like, what are you doing? Why are you playing President Trump from the 80s? It's like, we're building the historical context. We played his clip from the 80s where he's being interviewed by Barbara Walters and said, no, Iran can't have a nuke. We played the clip from 2015 when he announced his candidacy. He says, no, Iran can't have a nuke. People will say that he's turning his back on campaign promises, but you can make the argument that he has been more than consistent on Iran and the nuclear weapon. But at the same time, we want this conflict over and over quickly. Even Marco Rubio saying the finish line's in sight.
And as president, he was not going to allow Iran to pose a threat to Americans now or future generations of Americans. So we had to act. And with very clear purpose. We are going to destroy their Air Force. We have largely done that. We were going to destroy their Navy, which we have largely achieved that. We were going to destroy a significant percentage of their missile launchers. We are well on our way to achieving that. And we were going to wipe out their defense industrial base, meaning the factories that make the drones and the missiles. We are on our way to doing that. Those were our 4 objectives because those are the 4 things they were going to hide behind to then develop a nuclear weapon and threaten the world if they tried to do anything about it. That was not going to happen under President Trump. We are well on our way. We are on or ahead of schedule on each of those 4 objectives, and we can see the finish line. It's not today, it's not tomorrow, but it is coming. We are going to get to the point where our military will have achieved all of its objectives in this mission, and they're doing so with extraordinary efficiency, something that I think will go down in history as one of the best-run tactical military operations in modern times.
I mean, I hope that we do get to look back on it and say those things and look at it with a bit of hindsight and clear minds. We need to get to that other side, though, to be able to do that. Secretary of State Marco Rubio there, he gave an extensive interview on Hannity last night. He was there for a long while. And on top of what he said there, he made the point that we made yesterday on the show. You know, everybody says, oh, Iran's not an imminent threat. Have you heard Joe Kent? Joe Kent said that Iran is not an imminent threat. Now, ignore the part where Joe Kent was cut out of the intel briefings before they were planning Operation Epic Fury. Just put that to the side. It doesn't help with the conspiracy theorists. But Iran wasn't an imminent threat. And we made the case about the missiles that were launched at Diego Garcia. We have said time and time again, the president has access to more information than I have access to, than you have access to. We're not in the skiffs. We're not in the briefing rooms. Joe Kent wasn't either. Shocker, surprise, spoiler alert. But Marco Rubio, he's in those rooms. Now, you can take this and you can say Marco Rubio's lying, or you can understand that Marco Rubio is probably telling the truth. And Marco Rubio said, no, this was an imminent threat. We saw it with the missiles that were able to reach cities like London and Paris. And he said that they were moving towards the nuclear weapon. This is Marco Rubio last night with Hannity.
Now have the capability and the range that their missiles could reach Paris, London. Is that true?
That's correct. In fact, but they denied it. Remember, anytime you hear Iran, you know, you had an image a moment ago of this guy, Arachi, their foreign minister. This guy is a liar. This guy was on television like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, denying that Iran had any missiles that could go beyond a certain limitation. And then they fired 2 of them. Now, we don't think they have many of them, but they are soon to have many of them. We've destroyed and are destroying the factories to make those things. Those things, the ones they launched the other day, could reach well into Europe. And actually, they had fired it on Diego Garcia. One of them failed, one of them was shot down, but they fired him at Diego Garcia, which is really far away. So they were moving towards eventually having a missile that could reach the continental United States. That's what they were aiming to do. They were aiming to become the next North Korea, except not a North Korea run by, you know, a regime that, you know, is troublesome and hard to understand, but an Iran run by radical Shia clerics with intercontinental missiles that could reach the mainland of the United States eventually. That's what they were going towards. That's what they would have ultimately achieved had President Trump not taken these steps that he's taken.
They're not going to be able to achieve it anymore. Yet the conversation will undoubtedly spiral into, no, they didn't. Yes, they did. No, they weren't. Yes, they were. I mean, we're just going to keep butting heads, you know? And the conservative movement needs to just get past that. Like, just, we need to get to the other side of this conflict. Then we can assess it with clear eyes and hindsight. But Iran was an imminent threat. Iran wasn't an imminent threat. It's just, that's not going to get us anywhere. I mean, we could do it if you want to do it, 615-737-9986. But it seems like a lot of people have their heels dug in, and they're not going to take the information from this administration as gospel. And I'm not even saying that maybe you should. question everything. I'm just trusting that these guys have the information to make these decisions. Marco Rubio did address all of the people who said that this could have been avoided, and he did so last night on Hannity. Marco Rubio said Iran was given multiple opportunities. You talk about this could have been avoided. Say that to Iran.
By providing drones and rockets and things of that nature that they've developed themselves. But understand this, Iran, this is a country that has trouble coming up with drinking water. This is a country whose economy is in shambles. It's going to be even worse off after this operation. This is a country whose people have been protesting in the streets because not just the lack of freedom, but the lack of economic opportunity, because they've taken all of their money, all the money they have, the little money they have because of sanctions, and they've invested all of it in sponsoring terrorism, in building long-range missiles, increasing the range of their missiles every year, and building thousands of them, and building these one-way attack drones that they're using against their neighbors. This is what they've put their money towards, and this is what they were going to continue to do. They refused to negotiate on missiles. They refused to even negotiate on terrorism. And they refused to negotiate on enrichment. They demand the right to enrich. So for all these people out there talking about how this could have been avoided, they were given every opportunity in multiple talks, and all they did is either reject or delay. And that's not going to happen under President Trump. He's not going to allow Iran to become a nuclear power on his watch and threaten America now or in the future.
There were opportunities to avoid this. On the Iranian side, there was moments where they could have come to the negotiation table on the Iranian side. They chose not to. We're here now. Again, we can debate whether or not this was the right move. We're going to need more time after this operation to have clarity and see the ripple effects. But at this point, I'm just praying for it to end quickly. I think you should too. I think that that's the best opportunity. The objectives, Marco Rubio laid out one more time last night with Sean Hannity, because he says people aren't paying attention in the back of the class. He said it time and time again, and he said, we know what the objectives are, and we have made the objectives very clear. There's 4 of them.
Discuss tactics or options that are available to the president. I will say that there's a very simple, there's no use for 60% enriched uranium. I know we're getting a little technical here, but there's no use for it. You don't use it to create electricity. You don't use it to create anything for medical purposes. The only reason to have 60% enriched uranium is to be able to enrich it to 90% and put it in a bomb. That's the only reason to have it. Iran has no reason to have it. They should give it up. They've been given multiple opportunities to give it up. They've had multiple countries, including countries they consider friendly to them, approach them and say, turn it over to us. They continue to refuse to do so. So why do they continue to refuse to turn over 60% enriched uranium? There's only one reason, and that is because they want to hold it and keep it to one day use it to build a bomb. That's the only way. And they were going to hide behind all of these missiles, all of these drones, their Navy and their Air Force. They were going to keep building those up to the point where then they would say to the world, you can't do anything about it because we'll launch these missiles against you and destroy you. Look.
It's going to be a lot harder for them to hide behind the Navy and the Air Force now, don't you think?
This is the weakest Iran has ever been. This is the weakest Iran certainly has been in 25 years. Right now, look at the damage they've been able to inflict on their neighbors at their weakest point. Imagine 2 years from now when they had the opportunity to double the number of missiles they had, to double the number of drones they had. Imagine that. That was not going to happen. The president was not going to allow that to happen. That's why he took action. And again, I want to remind, because I hear these news reports, and it's very frustrating that we don't know what the objectives are. The objectives are very clear. I want to repeat them again, and we're going to achieve all 4 of them. We're going to destroy their Air Force. We already have done it. We're going to destroy their Navy. We've largely done that. We're going to destroy their factories that make these missiles and these drones. And we are going to severely degrade their missile launchers so that they can't fire these multiple salvos against their neighbors and threaten us, threaten our troops in the region, and threaten our allies in the region. And we are well on our way to achieving all 4 of those objectives. Those objectives will be achieved. They'll be achieved here very soon.
President Trump said 2 weeks. 2 weeks, maybe a couple days. 17 days. Say 17 days. Matt in Mount Juliet, you're up on Super Talk. What's up, Matt?
Yeah, we've got 2 big ifs that we're dealing with. The toughest one is if this administration is right that they're going to be done in 2 to 3 weeks. We've yet to see that from our government. We've yet to see them tell us the truth and honor it. But President Trump said that we could be 2 weeks away. You said we've yet to see the truth from our government and honor it.
Can you explain, just expand on that a little bit more? I don't really know where you're going with that.
Absolutely. Do you remember the Iraq thing that was just supposed to be a quick engagement? There's all kinds of engagements we've got on. We've been in the Middle East for 20 years.
Okay, but can we limit the scope of our conversation to the Trump administration? And I'll even give you Trump 1.0, because I think that this Republican Party is far different than the neocons that were running the country under Bush. Maybe you disagree, but I tend to think that they're a bit different. So, I mean, you can tell me, you can paint with a broad brush and say the federal government, but if we're going to include George W. Bush, I think we would also have to include Biden and Obama. So if we're painting with that broad of a brush, so I would like to keep the scope focused on the Trump administration, unless you can make it make sense and connect the dots.
I can make it make sense, but I'll keep it simple. The campaign was no wars. So let's go based off of that falsehood that we didn't do it. We didn't do it under that pretext. No new war. Now we're still in Ukraine. We're still over. We're over in Iraq.
But the Ukraine war wasn't ours. That's Russia versus Ukraine, and it started under Biden. So I get where you're at. No new wars, but he campaigned on no forever wars, no new wars. I understand how you could say that this is a against the campaign promise, and I'll give you that for sure. Like, cool. He broke a campaign promise. Can you point to a president that hasn't broken a campaign promise?
I can't point to a president that's broken promises about new wars like this. How many people we've bombed since Trump has been in office. If we get out in 2 weeks, and on the other side is cheap gas, like what are we talking about here?
That's a huge if, and I can't see that he comes through with it. Iran spends a tenth of a cent on national defense compared to what we do, and they've absolutely land-basted us over there.
I mean, you define land-basting. They don't have a Navy or an Air Force anymore. Their missile launching capability has been severely degraded. I mean, define land-basting.
Sure. Well, they have missiles that can reach Europe now. They've had those missiles. They've got a hypersonic missile that we have no defense against.
But this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, so people are like, Iran's not an imminent threat. And the case that I made is that Donald Trump is privy to information that we're not privy to. So are you telling me that it's out of the realm of possibility that Donald Trump wasn't briefed on that before he launched Operation Epic Fury?
I'm saying that it's not going to be a good outcome for us. It's not our war.
But you're not answering my question.
Okay, go ahead.
You're not answering my question. If we knew the Iranians were in Venezuela, if we knew that they have missile capability that could hit European cities like London and Paris and Rome, we know that Venezuela is within the same distance to the United States as those missiles have. And if Donald Trump is briefed on that in a back room and it's not public knowledge, then he's making a decision based on an imminent threat. Can you follow that logic a little bit?
Yeah, that's a big reach. That because
you think that's a big reach, and you said that Iran is land-basting us.
I would say Iran is land-basting us. They destroyed all of our military bases around in the Middle East. I would call that land-basing. What would you call that?
You think? I mean, do you really think that we're losing in the conflict to Iran?
I think that the definition of winning for us is much bigger than Iran. All Iran has to do is continue to exist. If we are going to say that we won in Iran, we have to have a complete regime change. Switching out leaders with the same ideology is not a regime change.
I mean, we've destroyed 3 levels of their leadership. How much more regime change could you want? President Trump posting this morning that the current regime is asking for a ceasefire. I mean, how much different of a regime are you looking for? If you want to talk about radical ideologies, I mean, we can talk about it, but I have a hard time finding. I think we're going to have a hard time finding a non-radical Islamic individual that's going to lead that country. But I mean, that's the Middle East for you.
Yeah, it's not our war in the first place. We should have been there in the first place. We said that we destroyed all their nuclear capabilities last year, and now we're back to do it again. Come on, man.
I mean, you can be upset. I just think that your classification of things is way off.
I'm upset about it because it's costing us our blood and treasure and our futures for this war that they can rebuild in a few years. That China's on their side, right? Russia's on their side.
Have either of those countries got involved at all?
That's a good point.
I mean, they're there for moral support, but it doesn't seem like they're getting involved.
I don't think the Iran war is a good idea, and I don't think the administration is being honest with us.
Okay, I mean, listen, when you say I don't think the Iran war is a good idea, like I don't even think that that's an outlandish statement, and I made the same statement before we got involved with it. But here we are now. We have to get through it as quickly as humanly possible. And it looks like we're achieving our objectives. No Navy, no Air Force, severely degraded missile capability, severely degraded nuclear capability. 3 levels of leadership has been taken out. I mean, how you look at this objectively, and I can understand being upset with another Middle Eastern conflict. Like I don't even think that's a stretch of the imagination. I think a lot of people are. But how you can look at it objectively and say that we're getting lambasted, I feel like you lose the argument.
Well, we're still there, and I don't think that it's going to be done in 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to be there for a long, long time.
I mean, listen, you know what? But do you know what's going to prove which one of us is or you know who's telling the truth, you or the administration? 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. I'd like to. I'm optimistic. No, I'm not optimistic.
I was actually about to joke. I was gonna be like, yeah, you sound very, very optimistic. It's 9:56. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Neck pain, back pain, sciatica, herniated or bulging discs, spinal stenosis, even numbness and weakness in your arms, legs, fingers, or toes. If this is bugging you, it can be fixed today. And you might be thinking, I don't want surgery. I'm not trying to get an opioid prescription. I don't need painful injections. Well, perfect. You're actually in the right place. The Wellness Institute of Nashville, Dr. Mitchell, they don't do any of that stuff. And right now, you can save big money on non-surgical spinal decompression. Currently, 47% off. They're also the first and only office in the state of Tennessee with the brand new hydrowave technology. This is going to stimulate your stem cells at the cellular level for real healing. This is unbelievable. We're also going to talk about robotic lasers, anti-gravity machines, cryotherapy. The most advanced care you can get is at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. This is why Dr. Mitchell needs to be your doctor. Bring your MRI. They'll take x-rays if needed, and he'll walk you through exactly what's happening and give you a real treatment plan to get back to a pain-free life. It is possible, but it starts with a phone call. 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009, or find them online at painisbad.com. That's painisbad.com.
Good morning. Now 10:01. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. For drivers, there's a pretty serious accident in Jolton this morning. It's on the eastbound lanes of 24 past Whites Creek Pike. That's exit 35. And it's pretty slow in that area as well. In the news, as arguments continue before the Supreme Court at this hour over birthright citizenship, some revelations from Solicitor General John Sauer. He says that the common practice of granting citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil has led to an explosion of birth tourism. He tells the court that over 1 million people from China have taken advantage of that rule, and some 500 overseas companies are dedicated to helping pregnant women arrive in the U.S. in time for the birth of their babies. He says that's wrong and it needs to be stopped. The arguments are taking place with President Trump in attendance, viewing the process from the gallery. It's the first time a sitting president has done so. In the Middle East, an Iranian missile struck a fuel oil tanker early today in Qatar's territorial waters. The ship's operator says none of the crew members on board were injured, and there is no environmental impact. The Qatari Defense Ministry says that 3 cruise missiles had been launched from Iran, 2 of them which were successfully intercepted. That third one struck the oil tanker. There were 21 crew members on board that vessel. President Trump has posted on Truth Social that the current Iranian leadership is asking for the U.S. for a ceasefire. However, Iran is yet to publicly acknowledge or confirm that report. The two sides have been exchanging messages via intermediaries in third-party countries, including from Pakistan. But there's been no face-to-face talks that have been arranged. Now, President Trump is addressing the nation tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time on the conflict in Iran, and we will carry it here live on WTN. The bus driver who was behind the wheel of a Clarksville middle school bus when it crashed in Carroll County last week is still hospitalized today. Sophia Ducksworth has internal injuries and a broken leg. She's hospitalized in Memphis. Dashcam video of the school bus crossing the yellow line has many wondering what happened in those final moments. The NTSB says the driver's conduct is one of the things being studied as it investigates the accident, which killed 2 young students. And the top librarian for Rutherford County Library System says she is exploring her legal options after being fired by the library board. Luann James refused to move more than 100 LGBTQ books out of the children's section and put them in the adult section of the library. The board says that amounts to insubordination. But James has said that moving the books violates children's First Amendment rights. The firing is the latest in the years-long battle against books with LGBTQ and race themes for children in schools and libraries. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 7 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. Got a couple people hanging on the line, Shane and Brenda, so we're going to take these calls real quick. Let's go to Shane and McCone first. What's up, Shane? How are you?
I'm doing well. These people calling in saying that Trump said no more wars, that's incorrect. He said no more forever wars.
Yep.
I mean, think about it.
I do think we're splitting hairs a little bit because the messaging got blurred. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's totally unfair to harp on the president for that. But I'm with you.
Yeah, and what president in their right mind would say no more wars? What's that going to do but embolden all our enemies to say, oh, we ain't got to worry about the United States. We can just do what we want.
I also personally don't think President Trump is a fan of war. I don't think it's something that he wants to do. But yet, here we are, so let's get through it as quickly as humanly possible.
Exactly. And one more thing quickly. As president, he's privy to information he did not have when he was campaigning to run for president. That's the last thing I got.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Appreciate the call. And as president, he's privy to information that we are not privy to. 615-737-9986. Let's go to Brenda in Knoxville. What's up, Brenda? How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I was just thinking about all this, and I like history, so I was reading about Winston Churchill. And back in his day, when England was facing Hitler's Germany, he told his people, we will fight when we have a chance to win. I'm paraphrasing. Or we'll fight when we can't win. And either way, we'll fight. So I'm thinking that's kind of like where we are, that Trump looked at the situation and we have a chance to win. But if we wait, give them 10 years, we would not be able to win because they would have a nuclear bomb or whatever to hold over everyone's head. So he just took the opportunity when he had it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brenda, and I think I do believe that he was privy to some information that we weren't privy to, and that information that I'm talking about would be those missiles that we saw head towards Diego Garcia. Maybe there's more information in there as well. You know, Brenda mentioned Winston Churchill, and it's funny. It's like, wow, how far have our European allies fallen? Marco Rubio last night on Hannity ripped NATO allies for their lack of willingness to get in.
Sean, I've been one of the strongest defenders of NATO during my time as a United States Senator because I found great value in it. And it wasn't just about defending Europe. I said it also allowed us to have military bases in Europe that allowed us to project power into different parts of the world when our national security was threatened. If now we have reached a point where the NATO alliance means that we can't use those bases, that in fact that we can no longer use those bases to defend America's interests, then NATO is a one-way street.
Yep.
Then NATO is simply about us having troops in Europe to defend Europe, but when we need their help, not their help, we're not asking them to conduct airstrikes. When we need them to allow us to use their military bases, their answer is no.
I mean, that's a huge deal. Like, we can't fly over France's airspace. We can't use Spain's bases. Even England didn't want us using their bases at the beginning of this conflict. It's ridiculous. But if they need help, oh man, it's an emergency, and they need the United States. They're like, please help us. Rubio's right.
Then why are we in NATO? You have to ask that question. Why do we have billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, over the years, trillions of dollars, and all of these American forces stationed in the region? If we can only use, in our time of need, we're not going to be allowed to use those bases. So I think there's no doubt, unfortunately, after this conflict is concluded, we are going to have to re-examine that relationship. We're going to have to re-examine the value of NATO and that alliance for our country. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, and he'll have to make it. We're going to finish the job here. As I said, we're very, very close to achieving our objectives on all of these things that I've outlined. But I do think, unfortunately, we are going to have to re-examine whether or not this alliance that has served this country well for a while is still serving that purpose, or does it now become a one-way street where America is simply in a position to defend Europe, but when we need the help of our allies, they're going to deny us basing rights and they're going to deny us overflight? I think these are very legitimate questions that we need to be asking, and this are going to have to be very carefully examined after this conflict is over.
It's the chicken in the bread, right? Hey, Mr. Pig, will you help me make some bread? Mr. Cow, will you help me make some bread? Mr. Goose, would you help me make some bread? They say, no, we won't help you with the bread. We're not going to help you make the bread. You go do that. You're a chicken. You handle making the bread. But when the bread is made, everybody wants to eat. As simply as I can put it. I don't like NATO. Not a fan. Brian in Madison, you're up next on Super Talk. What's up, Brian?
What's up, man? Hey, get out of NATO first. Pull all the funding if we can. I know it's easy for me to say, and I don't know all the agreements or legal.
Listen. I'm simplifying it to the chicken and the bread story. So we're on the same page.
I get that. Well, yeah, but I mean, you can't bully us. Nobody in the world can bully us. Here's the thing. Let me ask you a question, too. You may know. It hadn't been addressed as far as I know. How can Iran, who's got a decimated military, close the strait?
Mines and drones.
How's that possible?
Mines and drones. Huh? Mines and drones.
Okay, but we have capability to take. I mean, we're there, right? Isn't there a fifth fleet or something there or something? I mean, we're there. Why are they not targeting them? Because I don't hear about it. Doesn't mean they're not doing it, but.
Yeah, mines and drones. Your guess is as good as mine. I would just say that I know that a lot of the tankers have fears of mines and drones.
Okay. Well, okay, I get it. One more question, one more comment. When France and whoever, I know we can't use their bases. I guess there's a way to lock us out. I don't know, but that really makes me mad.
And you both.
As much as we've done for the world in the past, and let our guys die for it in vain, really. Is that if I was the guy running a CENTCOM or whatever, and they told me you can't use my airspace, I'd use it anyway and say, what are you going to do about it?
Yep. Same.
That's my last comment, bro.
Yeah, I'd ask for forgiveness, not permission, Brian. I appreciate the call. Rubio on the Strait of Hormuz last night on Hannity.
Well, the Straits of Hormuz, those are international waters, right? So anything Iran does to impede commercial traffic is illegal. For all these countries that love to talk about international law, it is a violation of international maritime law to impede the free flow of travel in international waters. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, it's illegal to bomb and hit and attack commercial shipping and sink them. I mean, that's what the Nazis did during World War II in the Atlantic. And that's what they're doing now to ships that from countries they don't like, that are flagged by countries they don't like. These are terroristic acts that they're undertaking. And so the United States gets very little energy through the Straits of Hormuz. Our allies ship out a lot of oil through there, meaning our Gulf allies. And certainly countries in Asia and Europe depend on it. We depend very little on the Straits. So this, if in fact Iran decides to set up a toll, if in fact Iran decides that they're going to illegally control the Straits of Hormuz or decide they're going to try to do that, look, I imagine that'll be the president's call whether he wants to help. But this is a problem for the world. It's countries around the world should be stepping up and dealing with that and saying that's intolerable. And that's what we've encouraged them to do.
Yeah, and they should. But, the chicken and the bread. They just want to eat the bread. They don't want to help make the bread. Let's go to Brad on Iran. What's up, Brad?
This whole situation just reminds me of an old rock and roll song called Captain America Calling. You remember that one?
I'd be lying to you if I said I did.
Google it. It's prophetic.
All right. I'll take a look. I appreciate the call, Brad. Let's go to Dale in Dixon. What's up, Dale?
Hey, man, first-time caller. I was just going to weigh in a little bit on this Iran. What is wrong with this generation? These people that are calling in, I'm sure a lot of them are conservative. What did they expect our president to do? You want to wait 2 years and let them get a atomic bomb, and then you know what would happen, Chris? These same people would be calling in and say, why didn't we do something before they got an atomic bomb? I mean, grow up, people, and get a set. Grow a set and realize sometimes, even though you make a campaign promise, sometimes you have to go back on it because circumstances change. President Trump, I'm sure, thought he could negotiate with these people. You can't negotiate with them. The only thing to understand is a bomb. So,
yeah, I hear you. And it was a caller, a couple callers back. I forget who had said it, but they were like, maybe he doesn't get the same briefing while he's on the campaign trail, and he gets in and he learns a bit of different news. I mean, on the division here, I think there is a bit more of a nuanced conversation. And I think a lot of people think that we're only over there because of the nation of Israel. And I think a lot of people feel like the nation of Israel has too much influence in our politics. And you could make the case that that's true. You can make the case that that's not true. I just wish we could have more of a conversation instead of a screaming match and people calling you shills. Let's go to Carol in Murfreesboro. What's up, Carol?
Hey, I just wanted to say I think people are forgetting that the Europe today is not the Europe of 50 years ago, and the leaders in Europe are very scared of their population, which is a growing percentage of Muslims in all the countries of Europe. And so I think they are afraid to take any action because they know there will be repercussions on themselves if they do.
Yeah, that's a fair concern, but it still just shows cowardice and weakness.
Well, yes, but they're absolutely. They're afraid, and they have reason to be afraid because they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, when you import the third world, you get third world problems. Let's go to Mike in Nashville. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, Chris. I believe that Donald Trump, I think he looked at the situation. The Marines, I don't know why they sent the ships over there, but it's to get the material, the uranium. I believe that they still had the material. They're not going to hand it over, but it would result in a lot of deaths trying to get into Iran or Tehran and get this material. And I think Donald Trump realizes that it's not necessary to do that. So I believe that's the reason why he came up with the 2 weeks. Because if he tries to go in with the boots, it's going to be longer than 2 weeks. But
yeah,
I'll say this:
like, if you were to go in and you're going to extract the enrichment, the enriched uranium, everybody understands how hard of a job that would be, right? Like, you need bulldozers, you need specialized guys that can go in and remove this stuff. The way you have to handle it, that we're talking a 10-day operation at minimum inside the country of Iran. I don't like that idea at all. I'm not a fan of that idea. I don't want to put our men and women in the line of fire like that, and I feel like a lot of Americans feel that way. But
I agree with you on that, Chris. And like you said before, I believe that Donald Trump is right about NATO. We need to pull out because these people are cowards. They didn't want to help the United States. Donald Trump had the guts to go in there and eliminate the supreme leader and other people, and he didn't have no backup from a lot of the so-called other countries that were supposed to be supporting us. And like we said, we don't need the oil from the Strait of Hormuz. So all these countries that need it, they need to be the ones that go in there and try to, clean the place up. Donald Trump needs to go ahead and move on after these 2 weeks is up, is go ahead and pull out and let them people do their own thing, because it's obvious that these people are cowards and they're not going to help the United States. So we need to focus on the United States and getting people back to work and getting these gas prices down. That's what Trump needs to be focusing on, and I thank you for taking my call.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it as always. Let's go to Gary in Springfield. What's up, Gary?
Hey, good morning. Just to give you an idea of what we have done for NATO during the Cold War, I was in Germany as a tank officer, 80 to 83. And we spent in 3rd Armored Division, about 9 months a year in the field, trained day and night. At Hohenfels, Grafenwehr, bomb holder, wild flecking, what you used to call wild chicken. 360,000 troops in Germany alone. And we wore ourselves out. And the big joke was, when you got to Germany, make sure you and your wife looked at each other's ID cards on the way back to make sure you didn't go home with the wrong person, because you didn't see your family. And that's a fact. That's how we wore ourselves out. And then they turn around when we got to take the worst of the worst, the bad of the bad in the Middle East, finally out. And they're not going to come and help?
Yep.
You got to be kidding me.
I'm with you.
You own it, NATO. You own it. You take care of yourselves. We're out of here. We're not going to. And the UN, we're going to toss them out of that darn building. Just get them out so you people just take off. We don't need you.
Yeah.
And we'll be better off for it financially. Take care of our own country.
I'm with you, Gary, 100%. It's 10:22. We'll take some more of your calls on the way. Bobby, Jim, Phil, hang on the line, guys. We'll talk to y'all next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at Cover Nash. Shane Ring is the man. He's going to save you some money on health insurance. Maybe you're thinking, I need health insurance, but I got to wait till open enrollment. And that's a long ways away. Well, that's a myth, actually. You don't have to wait for open enrollment. That's what the big insurance companies want you to think. With Cover Nash and Shane Ring, you can get covered today. No waiting, no gimmicks. You missed open enrollment, no problem. You lost your job coverage, Shane's got you covered. You're sick of overpriced junk insurance? Well, you're in the right place. You see, Cover Nash partners with over 75 top-rated insurance companies, and we're talking brand new nationwide PPO options with deductibles as low as $250, flat $50 doctor visits, ACA-compliant plans with free preventative cares. Whether you're an individual, whether you got your whole family, you're self-employed, you got a small business, Shane can get you some great insurance. You won't be overpaying, you're not going to be waiting, and you definitely won't be stuck. You can go to covernash.com or you can pick up the phone and call Shane right now. 615-465-0023. That's 615-465-0023. Health insurance on your terms, not the government's. Covernash.com. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand. President Trump is doing what politicians have promised for decades but never delivered. He's actually lowering prescription drug costs for American families and seniors. He's taken on Big Pharma, forced better deals, reformed middlemen, and launched Trump RX, giving people access to medications at dramatically reduced prices. Real relief for families here in Tennessee. But right now, here in Nashville, some politicians are pushing Senate Bill 2040, the so-called Fair RX Act, the Fair Prescription Act. It sounds reasonable, but it isn't. If this bill passes, it could force hundreds of pharmacies across Tennessee to shut their doors almost overnight. That means thousands of Tennesseans out of work, jobs gone, families impacted, entire communities losing access to health care. And for patients, more than 1 million people could be left scrambling to find somewhere to fill their prescriptions. In rural areas where the nearest pharmacy might be 30 minutes away already, that's not just an inconvenience, that's a crisis. It gets worse. SB 2040 could also restrict mail-order delivery, cutting off a lifeline for seniors, veterans, and anyone who can't easily travel. It would undermine services like Trump RX that depend on delivery to reach patients. There has to be a better way to lower costs without destroying jobs, shutting down pharmacies, and hurting the very people this is supposed to help. This is big government at its worst, creating a new problem while trying to solve another. A group called Conservatives for Lower Healthcare Costs is working to make sure Tennesseans understand what's really in this bill. To learn more, visit protecttnrx.com.
Coming up, we've got the latest on the arguments from the Supreme Court over birthright citizenship. Coming up here at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Joan Jones in the newsroom. It is 27 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. Let's start with Phil on the road. He wants to talk about Iran. What's up, Philip?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. What do you got?
Well, I'm getting irritated with all these people that don't understand history. You know, I'm 55, and we've been having problems with Iran since I was a kid. And, you know, we've had multiple attacks over the years, and we've done little hitbacks here and there. And I'm one of the few people that really believes that we ought to actually go in and completely take over Iran. I think we need to go in there. We need boots on the ground. We need to put the right people in charge there and just be done with it once and for all, because if we don't, we're going to turn around in 8 or 10 years and they're going to continue the same thing that they've always done, and then we're just going to have to deal with the problem again. And what if we've got another president like Biden that won't deal with what needs to be dealt with?
Well, you know, if we had a president like Biden or a president like Obama, throwing billions of dollars at them on pallets, that usually works pretty well. So we could go that route.
All right. Well,
I hope you detect my sarcasm, Philip. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Jim in Franklin on Iran. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Chris.
What do you got, man?
I want to remind everybody of a common saying of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Right now, what we have going on is the communists and the Muslims. The only thing keeping a worldwide caliphate for the Muslims is Western civilization. Same goes for communism. Now, Europe's being infiltrated, and it's being weakened. There's nothing left because they're letting the Muslims take over. They let the Sharia law be introduced. And once they come together, they try to defeat us. Now, if they happen to defeat Western civilization, what will happen was the same thing in China with the Uyghurs. China is taking the Uyghurs, they're putting them in camps, they're using their organs and their hair for wigs and stuff. In Russia, the Muslims have a hard time in Russia as well because there be two competing forces for domination. So we keep that in mind and realize this isn't just Iran. This is the reason we're having these problems in America is because the Marxist politicians in America are siding with the Muslims in the aspect of they're allowing the media to present it in an incorrect fashion and to distract people and misinform people. And then you add in what your last caller just said about people not paying attention to history. If you don't pay attention to history, the kids today don't know what's going on with Iran. They just know that the TV tells them to hate Trump, and so anything Trump does is bad. And these poor Muslims over there, I know Muslims, and there's a Muslim mayor in New York, so it must not be that bad. And it's all misinformation. And so until we find out, until we rediscover that these are two forces against us, we can't beat them. We're going to have to make this stand and drive it home and reconvince our kids of the dangers of both communism mainly, and the Muslims is a problem that will take care of itself eventually.
Yeah, I hear you, Jim, and I appreciate the call. 615-737-9986. I got time for Bobby real quick. Bobby, what do you got?
Hey, Chris, I'm not going to keep you but a minute, but the name of the game is these Muslims, they like to insert somebody here, one in the council, somebody for a mayor, and that's how they get their thing across. But here's the deal. Once we cut the money off to all these countries and cut it off from NATO and all that, hey, they'll come crying back because look at us, me, you, and everybody else. Look at the taxes we pay, man.
Yep.
We're the highest paid tax country in the world, and we're charged more interest than any other country.
Yep.
I just hope all your listeners out there, man, wake up and yeah, man, we're going to have to do something on this.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, especially on the taxes. We are taxed at such a rate that every major city in this country should look like Dubai. It should be clean enough to eat off the sidewalks. 100%, full stop. It's not. There's like 190 countries in the world, 190-ish. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I did know it at one point. But we give foreign aid, to 172 of them. That's your tax dollars and mine. Yeah, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it as well. 1030, Super Talk, 99.7, WTN.
Good morning. It's now 10:32. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. And happening at this hour, the Supreme Court is weighing President Trump's executive order that seeks to end birthright citizenship, with President Trump in attendance. Among the arguments, Justice Elena Kagan pressing Solicitor General John Sauer on his interpretation of who is covered by the 14th Amendment. It earned a very expressive response from the Solicitor General.
There's over a dozen sources that specifically address temporary sojourners. in the 5 decades after the enactment of the amendment, every single one of them says, well, temporary sojourners, their children are not included, including for 2 decades after Wong Kim Ark.
Now, the conservative justices John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett appear skeptical of the Trump administration's case. Barrett questioning if the administration's theory would have left out newly freed slaves. Nashville is making a play for the Super Bowl. Titans leaders and city officials pushing to bring the big game to the Music City by 2030. With the new Nissan Stadium set to open in 2027. Now, the NFL just added Las Vegas to the lineup. It is set to host the 2029 Super Bowl. Construction at the new Nissan Stadium is already 70% complete. New data released on retail sales happened this morning. CNBC says the February numbers beat expectations.
Better than expected, up 0.6%. That would be the strongest since June of last year when it was up 1%. If you look at July of last year, it was exactly the same, up 0.6.
And another report shows private sector job growth grew to 62,000 in March, and that is far more than expected by economists. Right now, the Dow Jones Industrials are up 392 points. That's the latest news. We've got your weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Sorry, Mason just came in here wearing a pair of capris, so I got a little distracted. I'm gonna have to take a picture of it and post it on the internet for everyone to see. I don't know what he was thinking. Nobody knows. Hey, it's Chris Hand here for my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Maybe that's what Mason was doing. Maybe I didn't even ask him. Maybe he's got some flooding in his basement, and that's why he had to wear the capris. If you have flooding in your basement, if you're getting water into your crawl space, you need to call the pros that have been dealing with waterproofing issues since 1994. That's United Structural Systems. When you call USS, you're not going to get a sales guy showing up to your house. No, you're not somebody worried about their quota. No, you're going to get an expert, a member of the community who's only worried about fixing the issue. They'll tell you if it's something small. They'll tell you if it needs a bit more planning and time. These guys are the pros. If you see water damage, don't let it slide. Sure, it'll dry up, but the next time the rain comes back, so does the water. And if you keep ignoring it, it's going to lead to wood rot, which leads to foundation issues. It's going to lead to mold. You don't want your family breathing that in. You need to make the phone call today. 615-488-7855. 615-488-7855. You can always find them online as well, USSTN.com. 38 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. During the commercial break, I laughed myself into tears. I hadn't seen young Mason except from the waist up so far today. Because, you know, we have, I'm like siloed off in one studio, and there's a production studio, and there's other studios, but there's, you know, I can only see through the windows. It's just, I get a window view. And Mason popped in here during the break, and I kid you not, Mason's wearing capris.
Yep, and I am not, listen. I can't argue with what you're saying. You're right. I am wearing capris.
Thank you.
There was a couple years ago.
Fact check true. The YouTube chat was trying to defend you, and I had to reset this. I said no.
No,
these are capris. Can you put Mason on the camera? Can we? Can you?
I'm not lifting my legs.
No, you have to.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, come on, Mason.
You can't make me do anything, Mr. Hand. I am not your lead producer anymore.
Show off the ankle.
They have to pay extra for the ankle.
The people said that they would like and they would subscribe if you would show off the ankle on the YouTube chat.
If this YouTube stream gets 110 likes today,
my gosh,
you get ankle.
I'm gonna have to just take a picture and take this into my own hands.
Wait, no.
No,
what have I done?
Mason is 100% wearing like mom capris.
Yeah. I was telling Joan, and I told you earlier, I put these on and kept trying to push the leg down while I'm running around because I was like, all my other pants are dirty. I'm going to wear a pair of jeans I haven't worn in a while. Put them on, trying to push the leg down. And I was like, why are these so breezy? Why won't they go down? And I was like, oh, these are the jeans I cut off.
Why did you? Okay, so.
I went through a time where I had.
Capris were in?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
The friend group I was with, it was like cut off clothes was part of it. And so like I have a cut off pair of jorts.
You give in to peer pressure that easily, don't you?
Bro, it was college. Of course I did.
Okay.
Of course I did.
In case you needed another reason why you shouldn't send your kids to college.
For real. It costs too much and
your sons will show up to work in capris.
Mason, for what it's worth, the YouTube chat is defending you.
And people
don't defend me.
I don't
deserve your defense.
People used to call Mac Morey a liberal. He never came in here wearing capris.
Okay, hold on. Be very happy I deleted all photos off the internet of me with dyed hair.
What?
Yep.
You had dyed hair?
Yeah. Guess what color?
Oh, not purple.
Blue.
Yuck.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I regret all this. There's a reason it is not there anymore. There's a reason this pair of jeans was buried in the bottom of my pants drawer.
We have a dress code here.
Yeah. Pants.
That ain't it, fam.
They're almost there. I just left the other half at home.
Okay. When you have to use the word almost when it comes to pants, it doesn't count.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's no almost pants.
It's a part 1 and part 2.
All right. Well, I think you need to find the bottom of those jeans and reattach them.
Working on locating them now. I have the best on it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mason.
I am going to attempt to do the news now.
Did you show the YouTube stream your ankle?
No.
So wait, you're doing the news today?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a high integrity job where people need to trust you, and you're going to do it in capris?
Hey, I'm being my honest self. You're stuck with me like this.
People don't think it be like it is.
But it do.
All right. Enough about Mason's ankles. The mankles, if you will.
I don't like that at all.
What?
The mankles?
The mankles.
The mankles?
We're not going to talk about the mankles.
Yeah, the mankles. We don't talk about the mankles here.
We don't talk about the mankles. I don't know why you did that to yourself.
Listen, I'm questioning most things I do in life.
And then on top of it, to come in here.
Listen, I wanted to check on my buddy, Chris Hand.
He was confident. He walked in here. He rolled in here. He's like, "What's up, dude?"
I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?
I immediately went,
"How's the show been?"
I immediately went, "What are those?
Fun?
What are those?"
Not even, you didn't even say, "What are those?" You went, "What?" and immediately broke down in tears. Chris's face has never been so red on this show. And I watched him change 18 different shades of red as he looked down and went, "What are you wearing?"
Oh my gosh.
I've seen Chris cry twice on this show, and that is one of them.
Oh my gosh. Something special.
You're welcome. To brighten up your Wednesday morning.
Moving forward, this will be referred to as the Mankle episode. All
Change the title, fix everything.
Whew. Does Murphy know that you're wearing those?
Nope. And
He's
say
gonna.
his name one more time, he probably will.
He's gonna. I'm gonna have to send him a text. Just a heads up, bro. Your news guy.
Your news guy's a little weird.
The news guy's wearing capris. I might text Ken. I might have to text Ken Weaver. He's gonna be like that. He's gonna
Don't do that to me.
That won't stand, brother Chris. I'm on my way in.
Drives all the way back.
He will. I don't even know where he is. He would get in the car and immediately head this way.
I wouldn't blame him.
All right.
I'm ashamed to the newsroom.
You should be denaturalized and deported for wearing those pants. Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Right away.
All right.
Good to see you, Chris.
Likewise. Birthright citizenship.
This term of President Trump's aggressive immigration crackdown striking directly at the U.S. Constitution and a fundamental question, just who is an American citizen? Moments after being sworn in for a second time, President Trump signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship, the practice of giving automatic citizenship to any child born on U.S. soil, regardless of the immigration status of mom and dad. Trump wants to change that, make it tougher to get automatic American citizenship. The DOJ will make arguments tomorrow before the justices at issue, specifically the part of the 14th Amendment written after the Civil War, which states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof
That's key.
Are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
So this is what the Supreme Court is arguing currently. This morning on Truth Social, President Trump said birthright citizenship has to do with the babies of slaves, not Chinese billionaires who have 56 kids, all of whom become American citizens. One of the many great scams of our time, President DJT. Now, I'm paying attention to the audio coming out of the Supreme Court. We're going to play you some of it. It does seem like they are torn. Justice John Roberts isn't a huge fan of this. Yuck. That means we might have to rely on Amy Coney Barrett. Yuck. You know how that goes. This is things that I'm a bit upset about. But outside of the illegal aliens, what we have to understand with the birther tourism is how this could manipulate our elections. And I hope that they push this heavy. If you and we've seen cases where the Chinese are having their surrogates birth their babies, and then they're taking those babies with the American citizenship and they're sending them back to China. And they're raised in the CCP, they're raised in the way of China, and then they're American citizens, and they can come back over here and vote. And a lot of individuals, Peter Schweizer is one of them, have said that this is a huge issue because what we're going to find is in a couple years, this plan is going to come to fruition, and we're going to have millions of Chinese Americans who are raised over in China able to vote in our elections. You want to talk about hacking our election? I mean, this is it right here in real time. Trump's DOJ is arguing directly with the Supreme Court justices. Currently, President Trump is in attendance. He's got a front row seat to the entire thing. We have Solicitor General John Sauer giving a response to John Roberts on birthright citizenship here. And he says the line, what does that mean? Subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Well, starting with that theory, you obviously put a lot of weight on subject to the jurisdiction thereof. But the examples you give to support that strike me as very quirky. You know, children of ambassadors, children of enemies during a hostile invasion, children on warships. And then you expand it to a whole class of illegal aliens are here in the country. I'm not quite sure how you can get to that big group from such tiny and sort of idiosyncratic Examples.
There are those sort of narrow exceptions for ambassador foreign public ships. Tribal Indians is an enormous one that they were very focused on in the debates as well. But what I do is I invite the court to look at the intervening step, which is the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And there they didn't say subject to the jurisdiction thereof. There it says not subject to any foreign power. Now, if you go back to Blackstone and Calvin's case, they say it does not matter if you are subject to any foreign power. If you are born in the king's domains, you have this indefeasible duty of allegiance to the king at any time. So there's a clear repudiation in the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act is this breakwater which makes it very, very clear that they are not thinking about allegiance in the terms of like the British common law. They've adopted the Republican conception of allegiance. So it's from not subject to any foreign power, and then the debates just a couple months later make it very clear that they're recodifying the same conception. They were dissatisfied with the potential ambiguity in the phrase Indians not taxed, and they adopted subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And one of the strongest statements of this is Senator Trumbull's statement that I quoted at the beginning, where he says, he's asked, well, what does that mean, subject to the jurisdiction thereof? And he says, it means not owing allegiance to anybody else. That is what it means.
That's key. That's a big deal. What do we see when we have the major protests where the illegal aliens are protesting deportations? Are they waving the country's flag that they're from? They are. They are. So do they have allegiance to America? No, they don't. They have allegiance to the country that they're from. And we see it. We all witness it in real time on our TVs when we see these protests. They don't care about America. They have no allegiance to America. They're here for the bennies. They're here for the money, and then they send it out of the country. Where's the allegiance? There is none. This should be open and shut. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that it's going to be open and shut. Samuel Alito also weighed in. He suggests that just because illegal aliens were not a problem at the time of the 14th Amendment that it was adopted, that does not mean that they shouldn't be addressed today. This is Justice Alito.
That they had in mind when they adopted the general rule, or do we say they adopted a general rule, they meant for that to apply to later applications that might come up? Justice Scalia had an example that dealt with this situation. He imagined an old theft statute that was enacted well before anybody conceived of a microwave oven, and then afterwards someone is charged with the crime of stealing a microwave oven, and this fellow says, well, I can't be convicted under this because the microwave oven didn't exist at that time. And he dismissed that. There's a general rule there, and you apply it to future applications. And what we're dealing with here is something that was basically unknown at the time when the 14th Amendment was adopted, which is illegal immigration. So how do we deal with that situation when we have a general rule?
Yeah, I strongly agree with the way that you framed it, that there is a general principle, that's a broad principle that's adopted in the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And we submit that our theory of allegiance and domicile-based allegiance is what explains those specific exceptions that everybody was aware of, but it is broad enough to sweep in future situations. And as you pointed out, illegal immigration did not exist then. Now, the problem of temporary visitors did exist. And it's very interesting that as you look at pages 26 and 28 of our brief, commentators going from 1881 until 1922 are uniformly saying the children of temporary visitors are not included.
So can we just end the discussion? You would think that we should be able to, but one conservative justice seems to have a bit of an issue with all of this. Justice John Roberts, very skeptical, people are saying, of President Trump ending birthright citizenship, and they're saying that he has repeatedly been firing back at Trump's top lawyer.
Based on Chinese media reports, there are 500 birth tourism companies in the People's Republic of China whose business is to bring people here to give birth and return to that nation.
Having said all that, you do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I'd quote what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that shows that they've made a mess. Their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
Well, it certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course, we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Yep. Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
It is, and as Justice Scalia said, I think in the case that Justice Alito was referring to, you've got a constitutional provision that addresses certain evils, and it should be extended to reasonably comparable evils. He said that about statutory interpretation. I think the same principle applies here, and I think we quote that in our brief.
So if Justice John Roberts is out, that means we're leaning on Amy Coney Barrett. Awesome. 10:53. We'll be paying attention to this case as it moves along. We'll be bringing you all the relevant audio all day here today on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be back momentarily. It's Super Talk. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at Zero Res Nashville. Real life in my house right now. 4 kids, 2 dogs, baseball season. A lot of dirt coming in through the front door. I feel like we're at the baseball field every night, and I feel like every single night I'm like, hey, guys, take your cleats off in the garage. And they don't. They never do. They never do. And then at some point, we'll look at the carpets and we'll think, all right, we need backup. That's when we call Zero Res. And what I like about the guys is their whole approach. No harsh chemicals, no soap left behind, just their special ZR water cleaning system. It actually gets the carpets insanely clean and makes them stay clean longer. Plus, you know how I feel about the Maha, and this is the Maha approach to cleaning your home. If you check the reviews, it's obvious that my family is not the only fan of Zero Res in Nashville. Thousands of families are using them, and right now is the perfect time to do it too. Spring is here. It's officially here. I don't care what anybody says. It's springtime. And that means this is the perfect way to get your home fresh again. Call Zero Res today, 615-535-9376, 615-535-9376. They have 2- and 3-room specials going on right now. You can also book online, ZeroResNashville.com.
A bus driver hospitalized in a Supreme Court arguments for birthright citizenship. All of that coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Mason Fleming in the newsroom. My name is Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. I got a text from Matt Murphy during the commercial break. Matt's coming in hot today. He's coming in hot. He was talking about don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. He was talking about the Supreme Court.
Good.
Matt Murphy said, I listened to all of those oral arguments today until I had to leave the house. If I did not know it before, I know it now. Brown Jackson is a complete imbecile. A pristine example of what happens when you value DEI above all else. Unfit to serve. This concludes my TED Talk. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So I said reading on air. And then I added, any thoughts on Mason wearing capris today?
There it is.
One word. Oof.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought I was going to get an ew.
No, it was an
EW.
It was an oof.
Yeah, no, that's much worse. That's much worse.
It's actually way worse.
Way worse.
What's worse, the capris or Ketanji Brown Jackson's comments? I haven't heard the comments yet. We'll listen to them together when we get back. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 11 a.m. I'm Mason Fleming with your top stories. Full forecast coming in 5 minutes. The bus driver who was behind the wheel when she crossed the median and drove into oncoming traffic of a dump truck is reportedly still hospitalized in Memphis from internal injuries. WSMV4's Holly Thompson with more from the driver named Sabrina Ducksworth.
We spoke with people who knew the bus driver very well for the last 15 years. They tell us that she was having family problems in the week leading up to the crash and had just broken up with a long-term girlfriend and moved out within the last week.
2 Montgomery County middle schoolers were killed and 2 remain hospitalized. A 13-year-old boy is recovering after he was hit by a truck while riding his bike across the Nashville street, and police say the driver took off Javin Ridgway, told News 2 he was simply trying to make a quick trip to Circle K on his bike when a red pickup truck ran a red light and ran into him. He said the driver got out, saw that he was hurt, and left the scene. Police are still searching for that driver. As President Trump looked on from the front seat in the front row, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a challenge to his executive order that aims to restrict birthright citizenship. ABC News national correspondent Steve Portnoy reports from Washington.
At times, the court's conservatives seemed just as skeptical as the liberals of the idea that children born to people here illegally are not U.S. citizens. Justice Samuel Alito noted their parents might be subject to removal, but they've still established roots here.
And that raises a humanitarian problem.
The Trump administration's lawyer pointed to the concept of birth tourism, but he was unable to explain how common it is for foreigners to fly here just to have their babies. When he said it's now a new world, Chief Justice John Roberts said this.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
We reported yesterday that the U.S. Army has launched an investigation into the 2 pilots who hovered their Apache helicopters outside of Kid Rock's Nashville home over the weekend. They're not in danger of losing their jobs. War Secretary Pete Hegseth posted on social media yesterday, no punishment, no investigation. Carry on, patriots. He also thanked Kid Rock. President Trump showing off his plans for his future presidential library. ABC's David Packer reports.
President Trump unveiled a digital preview of his planned presidential library, expected to be built in Miami. The video shows a towering waterfront complex complete with a museum, ballroom, and replica Oval Office, the 747 gifted by Qatar for use as Air Force One in the lobby, and an amphitheater space with a giant gold statue of Trump. It also hints the project could double as a hotel, something Trump has confirmed, calling the design beautiful. Trump says construction would not begin until after he leaves office. Dave Packer, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Weather's up next. I'm Mason Fleming, WTN News.
It's 11:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. We got Mason Fleming in the newsroom. We got RJ producing. We got you guys on the phone lines and the text line, 615-737-9986. Also see you guys in the YouTube chat. Hail to the chat. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like the show on your way in or out. Oral arguments are going on right now on Donald Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. I'll be honest with you. The headline's not looking good. Deep skepticism, even from conservative justices. We'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to bring you some comments from Ketanji Brown Jackson. Matt Murphy texted in. He's not impressed. He said that she is the ultimate DEI hire. He said if he doubted it before, if he didn't know it before, he knows it now. She is a complete imbecile. A pristine example of what happens when you value DEI above all else, unfit to serve. I haven't heard these comments yet. This is one of the downsides of being on the air while this stuff is breaking. We gotta listen to it together. Let's hear from Ketanji Brown Jackson.
As there's currently a system where, for example, Social Security numbers are generated based on the birth certificate. They say this can still be, for the vast majority of instances, completely transparent. You will still get a...
No, not transparent. I'm just talking about the particulars, because now you say your rule turns on whether the person intended to stay in the United States. And I think Justice Barrett brought this up. So are we bringing pregnant women in for depositions? What are we doing to figure this out?
No, as I pointed out earlier, the executive order turns on lawfulness of status. So if you give birth to a baby in the hospital right now, it gets the birth certificate in the system. There's a computer system.
So there's no opportunity. There's apparently no opportunity then for the person to prove or to say that they actually intended to stay in the United States.
Absolutely not. The opposite is true. Their opportunity to dispute if they think they were wrongly denied, which would only happen in a tiny minority of cases, is directly addressing that guidance.
After the fact.
Yes.
After their baby has been denied citizenship, then we can go through the process.
Yes. And the way that, I'm summarizing because I'm not an expert in computers, but there's a computer program that currently automatically generates a Social Security number. SSA says, look, a Social Security number, non-citizens can have them if they have work authorization, so it doesn't prove citizenship. We'll give you a Social Security number, provided that the system automatically checks the immigration status of the parents, which there are robust databases for, and then it appears no different to the vast majority of birthing parents.
Thank you.
Ketanji Brown Jackson wants pregnant women to be deposed and us to check into baby citizenship. Is that what I'm hearing? There's more from Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is a bit longer. We'll play it because I do think this is one of the biggest news stories of the day, and we'll stop it momentarily as we feel the need to. But Ketanji Brown Jackson, they're saying that she was destroyed by Trump attorney John Sauer. Let's listen into some of these oral arguments.
So I guess I am looking at your position in this case, and it boils down to requiring us to do at least these two things. One is believe that the framers were not importing the common law rule and understanding of birthright citizenship. And the second is to believe that what they were doing was departing from that common law rule in the way that you suggest. That is, they were seeking to have this turn on domicile. I think you have a number of hurdles to accomplish those two things. One of which, I think, is that when we look at this court's case law, and no one, I think, has mentioned Schooner's Exchange, but it appears that that was an 1812 case in which it seems as though the court had already accepted at the time of the ratification of the 14th Amendment that the allegiance that you were talking about was the English common law rule. That, in other words, allegiance meant that you are covered by the laws of the jurisdiction, that you can rely on that jurisdiction's protection. That's what allegiance meant. Now, you're saying today, no, allegiance meant something about loyalty or that kind of idea. But if the Supreme Court had, prior to the 14th Amendment, established that allegiance meant the common law definition, I think your first hurdle is to help us understand why we would believe that when the 14th Amendment was ratified, the framers weren't just incorporating what we had previously said it meant.
I mean, when the 14th Amendment was ratified, it was to secure citizenship for freed slaves. What are we talking about here? The goal was to guarantee citizenship for formerly enslaved people, not to give children of foreign nationals with no allegiance to the U.S. citizenship. Like, what is she saying? I mean, she says a lot of words, but she doesn't really say much at all.
Page 572 of the congressional record directly addresses this. They say the concept of temporary and local allegiance from the Schooner Exchange is what is meant by, or temporary and local jurisdiction from the Schooner Exchange is what is meant by the word jurisdiction in the 14th Amendment. Senator Trumbull says, I thought about saying owing allegiance, but again, quote, there's a sort of allegiance from persons temporarily resident in the United States whom we have no right to make citizens. So he expressly and consciously rejected reliance on
what do we do with, I mean, that's a debate, and it's a discussion, very valid, but then we have a subsequent debate between Fessenden and Wade where the same concept comes up, and it becomes clear, at least from Senator Wade's perspective, that that's wrong. So Fessenden, and I'm not sure whether these are senators, I apologize. Fessenden says, suppose a person is born here of parents from abroad temporarily in this country. Wade responds, the senator says a person may be born here and not be a citizen. I know that is so in one instance, in the case of the children of foreign ministers who reside near the United States, et cetera, et cetera. So it appears as though in that exchange, at least Senator Wade believed that the English common law understanding of what it means to have allegiance, to be a temporary person on the soil, was what was being adopted.
Yeah, that exchange strongly supports us. If you look at it in context, Senator Wade has introduced a version that says only birth on U.S. soil and doesn't have any allegiance or jurisdictional element to it. And so Senator Fessenden stands up and says, well, that can't be right because, obviously, what about the children of temporary visitors? It has this, it's another one of these statements that has this appeal to a background understanding that we all agree that the temporary visitors, their children do not become citizens. And then Senator Wade has to kind of backtrack and say, well, what are the children of ambassadors? And in the end, Congress does not adopt Senator Wade's proposal.
So that's, I mean, what are we talking about then? So if we're cool with that, temporary visitors don't qualify automatically because their parents owe allegiance to another country, but you can sneak into this country and then you're good to go. Or in the case of China, you can set up companies, 500 birther tourism companies, and have them have allegiance to China, but because they were born here, they're good to go. That doesn't make any sense.
So we think that to the extent you can draw an inference from that, the inference strongly supports.
All right, well, let me just ask you about why we wouldn't see in the 14th Amendment anything about parental allegiance. Several of my colleagues have talked about the fact that your view of this turns on what the status of the parents are, and not the child, as would the born in the United States view of it. Can you help us understand why we wouldn't expect to see a mention of parents in the text of this amendment?
I think it's well understood that, for example, children cannot, newborns cannot form domicile, so it follows every 19th century.
That assumes domicile is in the test, and I'm asking you, how do we know that Congress did adopt the test that you say it adopted?
Yeah, when you're looking at 19th century conceptions of allegiance, the notion that the allegiance, again, we say domicile is instantiating the concept of allegiance for aliens as opposed to citizen. All of that, the 19th century understands the newborn's domicile, its allegiance follows the allegiance of the parents. And I point out that their theory relies on parental allegiance as well, because they recognize the exceptions for, hostile invading armies, for tribal Indians, for ambassadors. Again, the child's allegiance status, even on their view, turns on the status of the parent.
What do we?
How dare you assume that baby is not patriotic when his parents are communists? How dare you? How dare you? That baby could be more American than you and I just because his parents are here illegally from Honduras. That doesn't mean anything, right? That's Ketanji Brown Jackson versus John Soar. The one that I think is a little bit more eyebrow raising. She's an idiot, so I'm not really shocked by that. Amy Coney Barrett also appears skeptical. And if you were paying attention a little while ago, Justice John Roberts is also skeptical, which means we would need an Amy Coney Barrett to come over to get us a 5-4 victory. This is Amy Coney Barrett discussing striking down birthright citizenship with John Sauer.
Okay, let's talk about its applications. So, there are some, I can imagine it being messy in some applications. So what would you do with what the common law called foundlings? The thing about this is then you have to adjudicate. If you're looking at parents, and if you're looking at parents' domicile, then you have to adjudicate both residence and intent to stay. What if you don't know who the parents are?
I think there are marginal cases. That one, I think, has the benefit of being addressed in 1401F, where it talks about...
Yeah. But what about the Constitution?
Under the Constitution, domicile is a constitutional standard in all kinds of other situations.
Well, and it's hard.
Diversity jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction, sorry.
Well, yeah, and personal jurisdiction, 1332, diversity jurisdiction. And the thing is, it has to be litigated because it turns on intent. And the virtue of both jus soli and jus sanguinis, whichever one you pick, it's a bright line rule. How would it work? How would you adjudicate these cases? You're not going to know at the time of birth for some people whether they have the intent to stay or not, including U.S. citizens, by the way. What if you have someone who is living in Norway with their husband and family, but is still a U.S. citizen, comes home and has her child here and goes back? How do we know whether the child is a U.S. citizen because the parent didn't have an intent to stay?
I'd say make 2 points, one practical, one legal. The practical point is under the terms of this executive order, you don't have to because the executive order turns on objectively verifiable things, which is immigration status. Are you lawfully present but temporarily present, or do you have an illegal status? So those kind of taking evidence, so to speak, under subjective intent wouldn't be done. And as to the constitutional point, obviously domicile is baked into a lot of constitutional and legal concepts, and there may be situations where facts are determined, but if you look at the guidance that all the agencies did after this court in Costa said the agency could go forward and issue guidance, the guidance provides, I think, very, very clear, objective, verifiable approaches to doing this. And so as a practical matter, I don't think it's presented by this executive order.
Thank you, General.
Amy Coney Barrett doesn't sound like she's convinced at all. And it does sound like we're going to need Amy Coney Barrett. Yuck. Not a fan on how this is going. I feel like this should be open and shut. Birthright citizenship is a detriment to this country. It is a magnet for illegal aliens. It is a magnet for the Chinese to do what they're doing with election interference. There are so many negatives to this. I don't understand how the Supreme Court could rule against the president on this one. But maybe they will. Maybe I'm wrong. For me, it looks like the 14th Amendment was there for the children of slaves to have citizenship to this country, not for people that snuck in last week when they were 9 months pregnant. Seems pretty open and shut. Maybe I'm simplifying it too much. 615-737-9986 if you want to join the conversation. We'll be digging more into this all day long here on Super Talk. I'm sure the other guys, Matt and Chad, are going to have their opinions as well as they've been listening to this in real time and having a bit more time to process it and dive in. So we'll leave the rest of the birthright citizenship to those guys as they get through these arguments and have their shows later on. In the meantime, a lot to talk about. Have you heard about the latest activist judge ruling? Which one, you might ask? Are you talking about the ballroom or are you talking about PBS? I'll tell you about both of them on the way. It's 11:20. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand. President Trump is doing what politicians have promised for decades but never delivered, actually fighting to lower prescription drug costs for American families and seniors. He's forced Big Pharma to make deals, reformed pharmacy benefit managers, and launched Trump RX, a platform to buy medications at dramatically reduced prices. That's real relief for Tennessee families, seniors, and anyone who's ever had to choose between a prescription and paying rent, a prescription or food. But right now in Nashville, some politicians are pushing Senate Bill 2040, the so-called Fair Prescription Act. It sounds reasonable, but it's not. If it passes, it would force the closures of hundreds of pharmacies across Tennessee overnight. That's thousands of jobs eliminated. That's a big, big factor. Over 1.5 million patients would also be forced to scramble to find care. Many serve rural communities where the nearest pharmacy is 30 minutes away. SB 2040 would also cut off mail order delivery. This hurts veterans, our seniors who can't drive, and the Trump RX program itself. This is big government at its worst, shutting down the very pharmacies President Trump is counting on to deliver relief to Tennessee patients. Conservatives for Lower Healthcare Costs is sounding the alarm, and you can learn more at protecttnrx.com.
Justice Neil Gorsuch presses on legal reasoning and threats of violence in Mount Juliet. That and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Mason Fleming in the newsroom. It's 11:24. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC. Water filters, water filtration systems, betterwater.com. 5203. ACB is horrible. Trump picked a real winner in her. Yeah, I mean, honestly, bad pick. Amy Coney Barrett, she's let us down a few times. She was supposed to be super conservative. I think the strategy for President Trump and the first Trump administration was after they saw what Kavanaugh go through, they thought, well, if we pick Amy Coney Barrett, she's way too sweet, way too nice. They won't be able to pull the same stunt that they did on him. And they didn't. They didn't. But she's been awful since then. So maybe that was the strategy. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I do want to talk about leftist activist judges. We got some news stories coming out. There's a stop, a halt on the big, beautiful ballroom. Yes, a judge just said that he needed congressional approval to build the White House ballroom. Donald Trump responded on Truth Social. In the ballroom case, the judge said we have to get congressional approval. He is wrong. Congressional approval has never been given on anything in these circumstances, big or small, having to do with construction at the White House. In this case, even less so because the ballroom is being built with private donations, no federal taxpayer money. President Donald Trump. So he gets donations, people get upset. If he was using taxpayer money, people would be upset. If he did get approval from Congress, do you know what would happen? People would be upset. And let's be perfectly honest. Donald Trump is not the first president to understand the need for a ballroom. Donald Trump is the first president, though, to have to deal with this level of interference from activist judges. They were talking about this last night on CNN. Abby Phillips, not a fan of the ballroom. Scott Jennings, put her in her place.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of a war, and that is such an important point. And the president is walking around with giant renderings of a ballroom that no one has approved, that he just has come up with out of his own mind. There is a tone deafness here, and it's part and parcel. I mean, with all the other things, his name is going on an airport in Florida. Okay, fine. He wants to put his name on the Kennedy Center, which is also going to be challenged. He put his name on the Institute of Peace. He's signing currency, which has never been done before from a sitting president. This is stuff that you see in let's put it this way, non-democratic nations, not things that you see in the United States of America.
So salty and bitter. Do you hear her? The president's carrying around mock-ups of the ballroom. Oh, God forbid the president walk and chew gum at the same time. So he's managing the construction project, but he's not allowed to do that because we also are in a war right now. Okay, so somebody brings him a mock-up on Air Force One, and he shows the reporters, and now everybody's upset. Okay, did Donald Trump personally request Palm Beach International to be renamed that, or did they do it on their own? Oh, got it. The Trump Kennedy Center, you're going to cry. You're crying over the Trump Kennedy Center. Scott Jennings looked her dead in the eye, said, "You guys really are mad about the ballroom, aren't you?"
Are you guys really that mad about the ballroom? I mean, honestly, there's a giant hole in the ground now. What are we going to do? Just leave it there? When you get the government involved in building stuff, ask the people in California what happens when the government gets involved in building stuff. You don't build anything. There's a big hole. I agree.
This is like saying, we burned down the house, so what are we going to do?
Yeah,
I guess we have
question.
to rebuild
it.
He
he's
tore
building
down
at
the ballroom.
At a private contribution.
I
There's
think
no
it's
tax money.
fair for Americans to be
pissed
upset
off
about
what he
tearing
did
down
to
the East Wing.
which I think has.
I mean, would anybody give a damn if it wasn't President Trump? I can't. I've spoken to so many Americans, and you know what they are really upset about? They tore down the East Wing. Can you tell me what they do in the East Wing? No. Oh, weird. Do you think anybody at CNN can? No? Oh, weird. That's not the only leftist activist judge getting in the way of President Trump. We also saw a leftist judge strike down President Trump's executive order that defunds NPR and PBS. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting was already defunded by congressional action already. So this ruling only applies to the executive order. CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, will remain defunded no matter how hard the activist judges try to get the propaganda back on Sesame Street. NPR and PBS will not be subsidized, despite what this activist judge wants to do. The ballroom will have to cross this hurdle, but I think that the Trump administration is going to win. This judge has no right to do what she's doing. So we'll update you on it when updates are available. It's 11:30. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 11:30. I'm Mason Fleming with your top stories. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments on President Trump's executive order that would end birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment has guaranteed automatic citizenship to anyone born in the U.S. for generations, and experts warn that reversing it could affect millions. President Trump attended part of the session, becoming the first sitting president to do so. Some of conservative justices sounded doubtful, with Justice Neil Gorsuch pressing the government on its historical and legal reasoning.
Whose domicile matters? I mean, it's not the child, obviously. It's the parents you'd have us focus on. And, what if, is it the husband? Is it the wife? What if they're unmarried? Whose domicile?
Well, in the executive order, it draws a distinction between the mother and the father. That's really the mother's domicile. I think that would matter.
Well, but 1868 matters, you're telling us. So what's the answer?
The 1868 sources talk about parental. I'm not aware of them drawing a distinction between mother or father, but they say the domicile of the child follows the domicile of the parents.
And how are we going to determine domicile? I mean, would we use contemporary sources on what qualifies as domicile in a state, or do we look in 1868? And do we have to do this for every single person?
In local news, a serious threat of violence against West Wilson Middle School in Mount Juliet. Channel 4's Joylyn Bukovac reports the threat was delivered through an automated message to the police department's Advanced Response Communication Center.
Police say they did loop in the Wilson County Sheriff's Office once they got this violent threat, and they also looped in the state Homeland Security officials as well. Right now, there is a coordinated response in place with additional officers assigned specifically for school safety.
A big police presence at Mount Juliet schools today. Anyone with information about the person making the threat is asked to call police. While Iran may be calling for a ceasefire, they're also threatening attacks on the U.S. technology companies with a presence in the Middle East, including Apple, Microsoft, and Google. Iran's Revolutionary Guard warning that 18 tech companies would be considered a fair target. The IRGC advised employees to leave their workplaces immediately, noting that it planned to begin targeting those firms Wednesday at 8 p.m. local time. That's the latest news. Weather is up next. I'm Mason Fleming, WTN News.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And Busy Bee is bringing you something special. It's called the Spring Breathe Easy Package. It's designed to help you, the homeowner, clear out dust, allergens, and pet dander before that summer heat arrives. This powerful package also includes an AC tune-up, plus a professional indoor air quality check to make sure that you and your family are breathing the cleanest and the healthiest air, period. You'll also receive a free duct inspection and premium air duct cleaning. That's going to remove the buildup of debris hiding deep inside your system, but that's not all. Busy Bee is also going to install a whole home germicidal system to help reduce airborne contaminants. And with premium service, you'll also get a bonus unit fog deodorizer, leaving your system fresh and clean. So fresh, so clean, just like spring itself. Now get all this value for just $11.99 on 1.5 to 3 ton systems, regularly $1,800, or $15.99 for 3.5 to 5 ton units, regularly $20.99. Call 615-775-7833 to take advantage of this today. 615-775-7833, or find them online, busybeehvac.com. 37 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? My name's Chris Hand. Show is brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC. You can listen to it anywhere on all the apps. You can also listen on the FM dial. You can watch us as well. Super Talk TV, up and running. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. The latter are the big ones. Smash the subscribe button. We appreciate you helping us grow the digital footprint of the radio station. Without further ado, you know what time it is, right? Does everybody know? We do it every day at this time. It's time for the lightning round.
It's the lightning round with Chris Hand.
Every day at this time, all the stories that wouldn't fill up a whole segment, stories that we ran out of time to talk about, and stories that we just find fascinating. We like to call it the lightning round. All right, you're doing, RJ's producing today. Mason's in the newsroom. Pretty good on the lightning.
Hey, you know what? I've had time to practice.
We've had time. First story in the lightning round. Oh, jeez. As soon as we give him props, right? As soon as we give a compliment.
Not as easy as it looks.
It's not.
Just saying.
Never claimed it was easy, but I get it.
It's a lot easier to screw it up. I'm telling you. Mason's in the back in his capris gloating.
What was that? You wanna run that again? One more time?
You were gloating in your capris.
Oh, gloating. I thought you said in my capris clothing, and I was like, that's not a you said
No.
clothing.
You were that should be the name of your album. You should put out with those pants. You should put out an emo album, and it should be "Gloating in My Capris." I feel like that would be sick. That's a great album name.
It's
all
the
right.
worst alt emo album anyone's ever heard.
"Gloating in My Capris." Okay. First story in the lightning round. Did a new candidate for Democrat presidents just appear? I don't want to alarm you guys, but somebody's thinking about throwing their hat into the ring to run for president on the Democratic ticket in 2028. And this one, this is going to change everything. Okay, maybe not. Don Lemon.
Pay cut. But it's not about money for me. So do I ever think about it? Yes. Could it happen? Yeah, it could happen.
No, it couldn't. No. It's not. No. It couldn't. It couldn't, sir. It could not. There's no way.
If the opportunity presented itself, the right opportunity presented itself. Look, if I wanted to, I know people are going to think I'm crazy. This is going to be the headline, and people are going to laugh about it. I think I could be president of the United States. I could definitely run this country better than Donald Trump.
Paper towel roll could, but yes.
Yeah. A paper towel roll could. Oh, yes. Don Lemon debating running for president. I actually hope he does. I wish he would. Got another story for you in the lightning round. The only way Don Lemon could win a presidential campaign would be cheating. That everybody understands that. That would be the only way. President Trump yesterday made it a little bit harder in that scenario because he signed an executive order limiting how mail-in ballots are used. We have been asking and pleading with Congress to pass the Save America Act. Once again, Congress drags their feet, so President Trump has to do it on his own, and he signed this executive order inside the Oval Office yesterday.
Mr. President, as you said, you have in front of you an executive order that deals with a number of issues relating to election integrity. As you've consistently identified, two of the biggest problems we have with election integrity in this country are, one, inaccurate voter rolls that allow ineligible people to vote in various federal and state elections all over the country. And then secondarily, you've consistently identified that vote by mail in this country has become rife with fraud. People returning ballots who aren't eligible to return ballots being sent to people who aren't confirmed to be eligible voters. So what this executive order is going to do is, one, we're going to take federal data. We're going to ensure that each state's election officials are provided with a comprehensive view of who the eligible voters in their jurisdiction actually are, allowing them to properly verify that everybody voting in their elections is legally able to vote. And then it orders the Postmaster General, the U.S. Postal Service, to take bold new measures to verify that ballots both being sent to people are being sent to people who are eligible to vote, and then that ballots being returned are being properly returned by eligible voters only. And we believe that combined, the measures in this executive order will help secure elections in the future and ensure that the many abuses of our election system in the past aren't repeated in future elections.
Right. Well, God bless him for doing it. This is obviously going to be challenged in court. Gavin Newsom's California already suing them. I have a feeling that the Trump administration is going to win, but this is going to be something that the Democrats hem and haw about for days. We have seen them say that the elections will be stolen, the elections won't happen. And the next story in the lightning round, Nancy Pelosi, she's got another one. The elections could be hacked. Yes. Now, before we get into the clip, I was told repeatedly during the Biden administration that this kind of language is traitorous, treasonous. It's a danger to my democracy. So what suddenly changed? Can anybody tell me what suddenly changed? This is Nancy Pelosi yesterday.
We always have concerns, but with this president and these Republicans who have no commitment to the rule of law and doing things the appropriate way, we're ready. We have three purposes now. One is to win the midterms. Two is to make sure the elections are safe. And three, to tell people what we will do when we win.
Well, you already told us it's impeach the president and arrest ICE officers, right? We're going to hold them accountable.
And that is the mission. There's so many things that you can do to protect the election, and they are being done.
Like signing executive orders on mail-in ballots so we can protect the chain of custody and make sure that they're going to who they say they're going to, things like that.
Whether it's litigation or legislation or just mobilization, communication, all of that. But in addition to that, we have to be on guard as to what they may try to do to the technology.
Oh.
They may try to creep into the technology and create a false count.
How do you guard against that?
That's a challenge.
They're going to creep. The Republicans are going to creep. Do you think she was working in a TLC reference, or she didn't understand it? Maybe. The Republicans are going to creep in there, and they're going to hack the elections. Again, I was told during the Biden administration that this kind of talk is dangerous to our democracy. And I think the former Speaker of the House, she needs to get in line. This is treasonous. We can't allow this to continue. And I do wonder where the voting machine companies are. Because the voting machine tech companies, when Republicans said stuff like this, well, there were lawsuits that were filed. I believe Tucker Carlson lost his job due to one of those lawsuits. So is Nancy going to get sued? She said the Republicans are going to creep in. I thought that these are the most secure machines. They're not even connected to the internet. You can't creep in, right? Isn't that what we were told? I think that's what we were told. But she said the GOP is going to creep.
And create a false count.
And create a false count. They're going to creep in. They're going to create a false count. That's treasonous language there, folks. That's what we were told. Got another story for you here in the lightning round. This one's a fun one. The mayor of Boise, Idaho. I didn't know Boise was woke. You're telling me for the first time. I had no idea, but apparently Boise is pretty woke. And the mayor of Boise, Idaho, was just forced to take down their LGBTQIA plus 2S flag at City Hall because of a new state law. They're all very, very disappointed.
It's not political. It's not religious. It's not ideological. For each other will carry us through.
Okay, so if you're not watching on Super Talk TV, you're missing the context. They're all standing around the flagpole. They're very sad. Tears streaming down their face, and they're taking the flag down as they sing this. I don't know what it is. Is it a gay song? I don't know. It might be a gay song.
For each other will carry us through. Yes, our love for each other will carry us through.
Oh my gosh.
With our courage.
And then they fold up the gay flag, the pride flag, like it was like a military flag. Stunning and brave. I was talking to RJ about this. Like, does anybody know the origin of that flag? Do you know? The one with the triangle on it was actually designed as a meme on 4chan some years ago. You got to know your meme. and then it was force fed to the Reddit community as a symbol of positivity. They added in the little triangle part because then when you lay four of them together, it forms a swastika, because that's what these radicals are. They are just gender Nazis, and they're insane. So congratulations, your flag has been removed. Your love will carry you through. I'm sure of it. I don't doubt it for a second. And I just want to say they are all just so stunning and so brave. They will recover. Don't worry. I can assure you of that. Got another story for you here in the lightning round. Last one. I think this is going to be that we got enough time for one more. I'm here for this. I'm a fan of this, but I don't know how much I believe it. There are reports that the UK is now going to start pulling back from having their police arrest citizens because of freedom of speech issues online and making mean, nasty comments.
Speech shift in the UK right now. Police now told to focus on real crime, not policing social media posts, after cases like this one. An American living in Britain saying police asked her to apologize for a Facebook post.
Something that we believe you've written on Facebook has upset someone.
You're here because somebody got upset. Is it against the law? Am I being arrested?
You're not being arrested.
Then what are you doing here?
My plan was, if you were admitting that it was you who wrote the comment, we could just make an apology to the person.
I'm not apologizing to anybody, I can tell you that.
Well, senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott joining us at the moment from London. Hi.
But before we get to the senior correspondent, based American woman. I'm not. Why are you here? Am I being arrested? No. All right. You're free to go. Well, madam, we're here for you to make a little apology. We don't want anyone's feelings getting hurt. It's the best I can do. It's the best I can do. If you want a better English accent, Chad starts at noon. But she's like, no. And I'm watching this last night. I got this big smile, and I looked at my wife. I said, if I ever have the chance to move to England, I might take it. I might take it just to post mean things online and just to have a visit from the local authorities. Oh, you got a license for posting like that? No, man, sir, I don't. But I would take that opportunity just to post mean things because it's fun. It is. Let's hear from the senior correspondent.
Greg.
Hi, Benjamin. Yeah, it's official today. The UK, specifically England and Wales, is pulling back from what many say is over-policing of online activity, not just reining in free speech here.
Over-police. I mean, we have seen cases where mean comments on the internet get you more time than raping a young British girl if you happen to be from Pakistan because, cultural differences, guys, cultural differences.
The Home Office saying it's failed to keep up with the digital age, sending police officers into people's homes, making arrests, keeping records over posts commenting, for example, on a person's characteristics like race, religion, sexual orientation.
The horror.
They go on to say in their post, police time will no longer be wasted investigating legal social media posts, freeing up officers to patrol the streets and tackle real crime. By scrapping non-crime hate incidents, we are balancing the protection of vulnerable communities while respecting free speech.
Common sense coming out of England.
The head of London Scotland Yard has been quoted as saying their officers were being put in an impossible position in which laws were drawing them into toxic culture war debates. UK Prime Minister Starmer has also been on the defensive, saying we have had freedom of speech in this country for a very long time, and we will always protect it.
Yeah, so it's so free there that you can get labeled as a racist for doing something as evil as waving the British flag. We can't keep letting them get away with it.
Today's move, in fact, gets the UK more in line with the states where First Amendment protections on speech steer authorities to act more on direct threats of violence, not just offensive rhetoric. Critics say, though, the new moves don't go far enough, just setting the bar higher for the police to act. The guidelines are set to be fully in place by early next year. For some, couldn't come sooner.
Yeah, it's not here soon enough. They should just start it immediately. And then they should go full retroactive and erase all of the penalties, fines, and imprisonment that they've had for other individuals because of these just insane draconian policies and laws. But listen, we'll believe it when we see it. They say they're pulling back, but we'll know soon enough if people keep getting the knock on their door when they post something a little bit offensive on the internet. It's 11:51. That does it for the lightning round. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand. President Trump doing what politicians have promised for decades, but never delivered, actually fighting to lower prescription drug costs for American families and for our seniors. And he's forced Big Pharma to make deals. He's reformed pharmacy benefit managers. He's launched Trump RX. That's a platform to buy medications at dramatically reduced prices. That's real relief for Tennessee families and seniors and anyone who's ever had to choose between a prescription and getting food for the kids. But right now in Nashville, some politicians are pushing Senate Bill 2040. The so-called Fair Prescription Act, the Fair RX Act. It sounds reasonable, but it's not. If it passes, it would force the closure of hundreds of pharmacies across Tennessee overnight. Thousands of jobs would be eliminated. Over 1.5 million patients would then be scrambling to find care. Many of these pharmacies serve rural communities where the nearest other pharmacy is 30 minutes away. SB 2040 would also cut off mail order delivery. That hurts veterans, that hurts seniors who can't drive, and it hurts the Trump RX program itself. This is big government at its worst. They're going to shut down the very pharmacies President Trump is counting on to deliver relief to Tennessee patients. Conservatives for lower health care costs is sounding the alarm. You can learn more at protecttnrx.com. 57 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was just telling Chad Benson, who's in studio, about Don Lemon running for president.
That's right.
He's very excited. The people are behind him.
Pay cut. But it's not about money for me.
Mm.
So do I ever think about it? Yes. Could it happen? Yeah, it could happen.
No. I love how he goes, it's not about money for me. I'm rich, idiots.
Yeah, losers.
I am so rich.
Pay cut.
If the opportunity presented itself, the right opportunity presented itself. Look, if I wanted to, I know people are going to think I'm crazy. This is going to be the headline, and people are going to laugh about it. I think I could be president of the United States. I could definitely run this country better than Donald Trump.
Paper towel roll could, but yes,
yeah.
you would be a market improvement.
A paper towel roll could run the
paper towel roll.
Not the paper towels. No mess cleaning up capability.
No.
The paper towel roll could run the country better than Donald Trump.
The bouncy guy.
Sir, we need some direction. It's just sitting there. It's just
tell us to do something, sir. We don't know what to do.
Russia's launched nukes. They're headed our way. It's just a paper
little
towel.
Googly's eyes on him.
It's just little pipe cleaners. Sir, what are you doing? Just like slowly tips over. Like, all right, that's all we need to know.
Oh, I would like to see him on stage, though.
I think it would be a very entertaining debate if we had Mayor Pete, Kamala Harris, Don Lemon, and Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it before we got on the air, but Stephen A. would eat their lunch.
He would totally eat their lunch. He would absolutely throttle them.
I still believe that Stephen A. Smith would be the most dangerous Democrat candidate.
No doubt.
For a couple reasons. I think the White House would be run the exact same way that Biden's White House was run. Everybody would be making the decisions behind the scenes because he wouldn't be equipped for it. But I also think that on the debate stage, he would come out, and similar to Donald Trump in 2015 when he said the Iraq war was a mistake, that was like, whoa, to the Republican Party. You would have Stephen A. Smith come out and go, boys shouldn't be in girls' locker rooms.
Yeah, pronouns are stupid. Everybody needs to get on with their life, all right?
And that would be as massive of a statement as the Iraq war was a mistake for the Democrats in 2026.
100%. I think it would be very dangerous if he decided to get into it.
What do you think the odds are that he does it?
It depends, because you know him, he's like, I got to go because I got to do my ESPN show and give you hot takes, because he doesn't want to give that up.
People love the hot takes.
They do love the hot takes. They like hot cakes and hot takes.
Hot cakes and hot takes. You see Jaden Ivey, the NBA player? Did we talk about that yesterday?
No.
Where's Stephen A. Smith on that one?
I haven't seen Steve. I haven't heard a lot from Steve in the last couple of days. Was he on vacation? Everybody's on vacation.
Everybody's on vacation.
Because it's that whole Easter break thing.
Everybody but us.
Everybody, you and I are here.
We're here. We always will be here.
That's right. We put the work in, kids.
We got it. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.